Well, welcome to today's Keeping It Real. Actually, I think I changed the show name to Make Some Noise. So today we've got a producer in California, Malibu, on the line right now, Mr. Gary, and also we have Mike there as well. And some of his clients include, and this, I hope you're sitting down for this one, his clients include Slash, Fergie, Journey, Rob Thomas, Hart, Seal, David Bowie, Andrea Bocelli, Julian Lennon, Kiss, In Vogue, Bananarama, Hall & Oates, Donna Summer, Kylie Minogue, Carlos Santana, Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, Boy George, Ellis Hall, Keb Mo, George Michael, and Elton John, just to name a few. And so here he is. How you going, sir? You can
Hello,
hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you all right. Hello, everybody.
And so how is Malibu right now in California?
Well, it's all on lock. It's all on lockdown at the moment, like everywhere else is. But apparently, it's in America. It's the worst place on the planet at the moment. But thankfully, we're in the studio, so it hasn't really affected. It hasn't affected us a lot because we've been doing lots of work, lots of mixing, and me and Mike have been working on a lot of things. This is Mr. Mike Williams.
It's absolutely the greatest place you could possibly imagine to be quarantined in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
the studio. Yeah, I can
Locked
see you
up
got
in the studio.
As you see, I had a mate of mine, who's a lighting technician, come around yesterday. He says, "Oh man, you got to fix your lights up." And as I've just noticed, my blue light's already fallen down, so I have to use some more gaff tape. Anyway, we'll sort that out next time. So,
but it looks very nice, Doug.
Well, it did before, while someone was sorting out their sound. That was,
I wonder who that was. It's that friend of ours, Remco. That's what it is, because you know how we message things up all the time.
Right? Yeah, that's true. So, anyone who's watching live, please.
I can imagine his face now.
Anyone watching live, please actually put up any questions you have for these guys. Who I just read out Gary's client list which is just jaw dropping, and I will probably go over a couple of those as well. Awesome guests again. There you go. Hey Kelly, how you going, sir? So maybe straight to what was a funny client story? Because being a guitarist, how was it working with Slash? How was that cool?
Oh, you've just frozen.
I've just frozen. Are we there? We've caught back up. How was it working with Slash?
Oh, just froze for a little bit.
That's all right.
Yeah. What would be good is to get everybody else on the internet here.
Oh, okay. I might have to kick Remco off.
Sorry,
the background.
We've got very, very limited internet here. So if anybody else outside my studio is using the internet, it's going to clog this up. I should go tell them to get off.
Okay, no problem. So how was it working with Slash?
Text Nico. Get off.
Slash is literally one of the nicest guys that I've met. He's so down to earth. He's apart from being a fantastic player, but I first met Slash when I was doing the Rock Against Trafficking. Well, I am still doing that, but he's a wonderful person. He's fantastic. He was the first one on the album that I was working with, and he's been very supportive.
And with working with established players like that, do you and producing them, do you give many ideas on how you want the sound, or they come in with a finished idea and you just do not get in the way of the creative process laying it down?
No. What happened in a lot of the time they're here with me, but on this case, I asked the first meeting I had with Slash. I just said to him, what's your favorite Police song? I said, because I'm doing this project with all Sting and the Police songs, and he just said "So Lonely." So I went straight back home, because obviously Slash didn't know me from Adam. So basically, I just did the track. I sent him the track, and he really liked it. And he sent me. Then he just sent me. He played all the stuff on it, and I just picked and chose from what he'd done, and it turned out fantastic. So
yeah, wow. And on that
was how that happened.
Yeah, wow, cool. And on your other client list, I don't know, Rob Thomas. I actually got to work with the Rob. Yes, I can hear you. Yep. When I was in, what's the state under New York that has all the casinos in it? Is it Atlantic City? Atlanta? Can you hear me all right? You there? So I worked on the Rob Thomas show over there, and that was it was pretty cool. completely different ball game from working with other artists over here. So, what did Rob Thomas do with you guys?
Well, the same thing happened because Rob was in New York at the time, and same thing again. Just asked Rob, and he did the vocal in his studio in New York, and just sent me his vocal, and then I finished the track. I did the track, and then sent it back, and just wouldn't do it. Them couple of people remotely. People like Fergie came in. She sang on So Lonely, and she came to my studio. Julian Lennon came to my studio, and Glenn Hughes did. I prefer working with them face to face, to be honest with you. But it was just a lot simpler to do it that way.
And how was that with Julian Lennon? Did you exchange any rock and roll stories there?
No, I mean, I've met Julian before. I mean, I've stayed at the Sunset Marquee. Not really. I mean, the thing is with Julian, he wants to do things in his own right because it's quite difficult to follow John Lennon, obviously. So I think he's had same with Steve. Yeah, same with Steve Rogers. I mean, you've got Paul Rogers, who is about the best singer on the planet, and you've got Steve, who's got sounds to me like his dad. But it's a lot to have to follow for people like Steve and for people like Julian Lennon, you know. So I actually feel, but Steve always keeps it quiet. A lot of people don't know that Paul's his dad because he wants to do it in his own right, you know.
Yeah, right.
But at least he's got a good thing to look back on, you know.
Yes, of course. And do you have any funny stories from your celebrity client list that you worked with? Funny stories that happened in the studio?
Oh, blimey. And blimey. Trying to think, there's lots that I maybe can't talk about.
That's the ones I want to hear. That's the ones I want to hear.
No.
Have you heard about the one about the guy with the donut?
No. What happened?
No, he was just showing me a movie where there's a guy, and he can't see him, and he's explaining that a prostitute just came up to him and offered him a blowjob, and he was complaining about it and a donut
for a roll of toilet paper.
So you can't see him for. Yeah, he said, "I'll give you a blowjob if I can for a roll of toilet paper and a donut." So the next thing, the guy's talking, and he says, "Oh, I'm trying to get rid of her." And the next thing, his hand comes into vision, and he's got a half-eaten donut in his hand, you know. So,
oh my god!
So that's nothing to do with music, but that's just
all right. That's all right.
No, I mean, obviously with the recordings that I've done, I mean, obviously a lot of these people I'd never met them before, so
yeah,
it was like. It was very professional, and they wanted to do a good job, and I wanted to do a great job, a good job for them, because it was important to me that they liked what I was doing, and thankfully, they all did. You know, I never got any backlash on any of it at all. So a lot of the time it was just, apart from Fergie, because Fergie came for 2 days, she did a great job straight off, but she thought she could do it better, so she said, "Can I come back tomorrow?" So, and the same thing with Ann Wilson from Heart. She came to the Sunset Marquee Studios and recorded there. Wow. So it was all very, you know, and with this project, because especially the Rock Against Trafficking, I wanted to make sure everything was set up so I took as little time as possible for, you know, while they were doing what they were doing. But it was all great, really, you know.
And with mixing and recording, do you have any, like, or maybe you might not want to divulge your tricks of your trade? Do you run it through any particular compressors, you know, an LA2A, 1176, or do you have, I don't know, what console you use, or does it really matter these days working in digital land?
Well, I personally think it's, you know, people go on about the analog side of it, which obviously great, and I worked for years on SSL desks, but with all the plugins that are out now, I mean, some fantastic stuff, you know, and I can't tell the difference. Maybe people can, but to me, we're doing a lot of mixes for different people, and everybody's been very, very happy with everything. So I had a big desk, but in the end, I just use it to rest my coffee on. You know, I was using one a great big desk. Yeah. It was a 9-foot desk, and all it used to keep was my coffee.
Your girlfriend on it sometimes.
And that was all it was.
Tell them the truth. The Focusrite plugin's your favorite.
But now I've just discovered there's a Focusrite console on, and I'm endorsed by Plugin Alliance, who I think are fantastic. So I get all the Plugin Alliance stuff, and there's some fantastic stuff on there. You know, I've got all the plugins, and it's just got the new J series SSLs just come out. And to be honest with you, there's not they've done a great job. There's not a lot in it really, to be honest with you. And it's so simple to record now, and use all the plugins, and you can mess about with everything. So I do it very simplistic, really.
And with Remco said I got to mention the 1980, but before I mention that, with recording artists, do you actually record phrase by phrase and do a comp, or do you just try and keep it real and natural performance and just get them to, maybe get it right in one pass?
Well, that doesn't happen very often. I mean, it happens with people like Steve Rogers. I mean, Steve Rogers came in, did 4 tracks, and they were all fantastic. But obviously, when you get some of the thing is with vocalists, when people go into a studio, they think, I'll just stand in front of the microphone, but you still need some microphone technique and things like that. And a lot of the young singers, they don't necessarily have that. And if I've written the song, I'll sometimes go through things word by word and line by line, really, because I like a lot of dynamics in vocals. And so what I'll do is I used to work on Pro Tools all the time, but now I work on Logic, and I like the way that it takes. So I don't stop them. I don't drop in. I don't like to drop anybody in. I like to just, so in Logic, I can just do the verse, and they'll sing all the verse, and then I'll compile it from maybe 10 tracks on Logic, once I've got it. And that's the way that and I prefer Logic like that, because it's very quick to comp on, and you got a lot of control over it, you see.
Yeah.
But if somebody can, obviously if you've got somebody that's the best singer, like, they'll like the likes of, especially Glenn Hughes when he did Roxanne. I mean, Glenn Hughes, I think you may have heard the single that's been played in Australia a lot. Glenn did a phenomenal vocal on that. And so people like that, and Fergie was the same. All them. It's usually the younger artists, because a lot of I do a lot of modern. I've been starting to do a lot of modern hip hop stuff, and right across the board. And obviously, with the new techniques, what people use, they just compress everything to death, and they compress the life out of a vocal, which I don't personally. I prefer, even on the DS, and I'll sometimes do that manually, because, but when you've got somebody like Glenn Hughes and Steve Rogers and, Rod Stewart and Tina Turner and all these sort of people, they're very experienced, so they just usually go in then, they sing it a few times, and it's done,
Wow, that's cool.
So,
and what about the vocals? Oh, so do they tell you what kind of tone they want? Do you pick the microphone, or they tell you what kind of microphone they prefer to sing on because they know their voice, especially with singers that already have a lot of studio experience? Or do you get to dictate that, having
not really. No, we just use like Mike's. When we was working with Steve Rogers, Mike just went and set the micro. But I like, and so does Mike, I like the C12. We've got about 4 C12s in here. And I really like that for vocals, So I do that a lot.
You can hardly miss. You put a C12 in front of any experienced singer that knows how to use a mic and knows how to sing, in a pair of headphones, a little light compression to make them comfortable, maybe a little reverb to make them feel at home, and they just perform. And
we got
and the sound is just phenomenal. I mean, the sound that Gary gets out of it after he starts working on it and mixing. If I've just run the recording and let the performer perform on that microphone, the sound is unbelievable. And we never have anybody complain about it or get picky. I want this mic or that mic. They sit in front of the mic. And what I really love about experienced performers like Steve, when he was here the other night, is he sits in front of the mic and he knows how to work that microphone. He knows how sensitive it is. You get younger, inexperienced artists in, and they get on that microphone and they can hear the spit running down the back of their throat, and they're intimidated by it. But experienced performers and experienced singers get in front of that microphone and they go, "Oh yes, I'm on a top high-end, top-notch professional microphone. Sounds fantastic, and they do what they do.
And what kind of
It's a no-brainer.
That's awesome. And with the preamp, what do you plug the C12 into? Just any preamp, or into a desk, or straight into the Focusrite?
Right now
hardware?
we're running straight through the Focusrite Octapre, but I have a couple of TLA audio mic pre's, some German mic pre's, tube mic pre's. But that microphone, it can get a little bit redundant if you're using a good high quality tube microphone that has an AX7 tube in it,
Right.
and a very clean mic
Preamp.
pre, and you're using the Dante protocol straight to digital. It doesn't get too much better than that.
It's funny you say that.
We've also got a Pre-8 as well, which is really good.
Wow. It's funny, I'm in Sydney. I was working with a producer who actually, I don't know if you guys heard of a band called the Arctic Monkeys. And
of course. Of course.
Yeah. So speaking to the producer, right. Well, I asked the producer, like, what kind of approach do you do technically? And he says, it doesn't matter. Like, just get a microphone and get a pre, because he says when you're in a good quality studio, everything's awesome anyway. So, and it's all going to be
it all sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays everything sounds great right from the get-go, really. It's like,
and Mike, that's for you, that question, Mike. That's for your question.
Yeah. No, it's an AKG. It was originally called The Tube.
The Tube.
The
Okay.
Tube. THETUBE. It's a C12 AKG tube microphone. It has an AX7 tube in it, and a separate mic, and a separate little mic pre-box that goes with it. And I think the original listed for about 10 grand each.
Yeah, I think they are now.
Wow. 10 grand US. So that's probably about $1 million Australian right now. So, yeah. Because
it will be.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to move to Australia, man.
We should sell it.
Yeah. 10 grand, I'm $1 million in Australia.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So, what about some sorry, you go.
I would just say, I mean, a lot of the time, I think in the end, you get all the technology, but you've got to use your ears, I mean,
well said.
And different. That's all. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not technical at all. In fact, it drives me nuts. It's just good. It's got to work.
Right.
So, I had a friend a while back, and he's a well-known engineer producer. His name's Nico Bolas.
Yes.
He worked with, I think, Bengals and a bunch of bands back in the days. But he told me that a Shure SM57 is about as close as you can get for $79 to a Neumann. He just called it a poor man's Neumann.
Wow.
And if you sing directly into it in the right position, the frequency response of a SM57 is just about up there with some of these $10,000 microphones. And if you've got a good vocalist and a good singer, and you use an SM57 correctly, you can't. It's almost indistinguishable. It makes some of the greatest vocal sounds you can imagine.
This is a trick. This is my 57. This is what I stole out of a magazine. I was recording this really heavy screamo band, and this is what I actually did. I got my microphone and I got the pen as a diffuser, and I had to get gaff tape. And anyway, I stole it off the guy who recorded Marilyn Manson. So they would put it on here on the nose and the chin as a diffuser, and so it would hold it consistently.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm teaching you gurus. That's amazing. No.
What a great idea that is.
Yeah. So this guy. There we go. There's loads of pens. So the reason I used it on this guy, because every time I used a large diaphragm mic, and maybe, I don't know, that was another question whether you guys condone or not condone using alcohol in recording. But this guy, he did a 6-pack and he was on fire. 6-pack of alcohol, that is, ready to go. But the only thing is, he couldn't really stand up. So I said, why don't you lay down and do it? So,
sounds like me.
But the recording was sensational, but I really like what you said. It's for as close to $79. Well, that's US, so that's about $5,000 Australian to get close to anointment.
You have to have him sing right in front of it because it's very directional.
Well, that's a great thing for the
know?
pen. I see that because when I'm writing,
right there, it rests on the nose and the chin.
Because you get the rap artists that like to put their hand around the front of the microphone and sing into it like that. And if you put the pen in front of it, at least it keeps it away far enough till you get a good sound.
There we go. Yeah,
we're definitely going to use that, Doug.
Yeah, no problem. We can say Doug in Australia taught you that one. So as a producer,
we'll do, don't worry.
So as a producer, then Glenn, Nuno Betancourt told me about his recording processes and the producers he's worked with, and he said that a good producer doesn't get in the way. So an example would be Butch, who did the Nirvana Nevermind album, and saying he did such a good job not to get in the way. The band had the sound, blah blah blah. But the role of producer can mean so many different things: writing parts, writing lyrics. So I'm just asking, what does the role of producer mean to you most significantly? Maybe both of you, actually.
Well, to me, I mean, usually because I've worked on my own, in the production companies that I've been with in England, like Stock Aitken and Waterman, Metrophonic. It's usually producers in their own, because it was a pop organization, but so basically, I personally engineer it, play everything, mix it, and I've been having to master it. Sometimes it gets a little bit too much, really, but it depends. I mean, I don't like setting microphones up, and I hate doing all that stuff. But Mike's really good. But Mike's great at all that stuff. So that's all. So I can just go out. I can leave the room when that starts to happen, But basically, because the production companies that I've been with, we've been songwriting production companies. So we've actually written the songs. Actually, Metrophonic, a guy called a friend of mine, Mark Taylor, who produced the Share record, Believe. We just sit in the studio while he was doing Believe, I think, or I was doing David Bowie, and he'd be doing, Cher's new album and things like that. So, but we actually sit on our own and we do all the records that I've ever done. Most of them, I've just done everything. I've had to do everything myself, just because of the main. Not that I like to do that. It's just that it's just been independent. But when I first came to Malibu, I'd signed a young girl called Roxanne Cooper, who was 16 years old, and I brought her to Shangri-La Studios, which is the studio that Rick Rubin now owns. And what I did, I wanted to do it with a band. Well, I lived there for about 6 months when I first came to Malibu, and I was working in Shangri-La, and then but all my friends, like Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffat, is a great friend of mine, and I used I wanted to do an album with the band, like an R&B album with the band. So I used Freddie Washington from Michael Jackson, Jonathan Moffat from Michael Jackson.
Whoa,
and
that's awesome.
And David. So the band was me, David Williams from Michael's band, the bass player, Freddie Washington from who now plays with Steely Dan. So it was all Michael's band, and it was fantastic. It was and then I think the keyboard player, the organ player was, sorry, but I forget his name now. It was a few years ago, but it was the guy that played organ on Voodoo Child for Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm forgetting his name now. I feel terrible forgetting his name, but he was wonderful. But we had a fan. I mean, the thing is, with people like that, I mean, I'd written the songs, but I remember, with Jonathan Moffat, I'd just play him the track down, and he would just go, "Okay, I've got it." Walk in the room and then just play it.
Wow.
Same with Freddie Washington. All these people were great. It was such a, and unfortunately, David passed away. I think that this album was, David's last recordings. I think that he did. Because he passed away after that. But he was a fantastic. He was a fantastic guitarist. I've never worked with anybody that could. His timing, and the same with Jonathan, and on all them three, the timing is just perfect. So like Jonathan's timing, even the click starts to phase. With Jonathan, it's so on the ball.
Burying the click. Yeah.
thankfully I've been very fortunate to work with lots of great players when I was playing live and when I was on tour. In the studio now with Logic and all the drum sounds you get, I've got, here between us, we've got everything you can possibly get. But we like the live stuff as well, because we've got a live room over there with the drum kit mic'd up all the time. I'm only new to, me and Mike have only just teamed up, so we're getting all the studio dialed in, but I've done about 3 or 4 mixes and sent them out, and everybody's been really happy. The studio's sounding fantastic.
That's awesome. So we talk about a little bit about live stuff, because I've read here that you were the musical director for George Michael. Is that the case?
Well, I was musical director on the Faith tour. I was with Dion Estes. What that was half the band used to support George and then go and play with George. And Dion Estes, who was with George right from the beginning. I was his musical director because he had a #1 record at the time when we was on the Faith tour. So it was both. Half the band played with George, but half the band actually opened up for George as well. So we did that. And when it was basically Dion Estes. He was signed. He had his own album out at the time he was on tour during the Faith tour, So, and then the last time so that was the first major gig that I'd done. Even though I'd been playing all my life since I was about 12 in clubs and things, but the Faith tour, which was actually the biggest tour on the planet at the time. So that was a bit nerve-wracking for me, I must admit.
Yeah. I've just got Jason McNamara. He's in Japan, Tokyo, and he's quite a cool dude as well, very connected.
Hi.
If you can reintroduce yourselves, he would like that, if that's cool.
Well, I'm Gary Miller, song.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I just hit the wrong button. You better do that again, Gary. Sorry, do it again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Gary Miller, songwriter, record producer. This is Mike Williams.
Ohio gozaimasu.
And he speaks a bit Japanese. His wife's Japanese.
All right. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Ohio gozaimasu. Shinkansen. That's what I know. It's like, where's the bullet train? Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I started off working for Avex when their first. I remember Avex first forming because we used to do, when I was with Stock Aitken and Waterman. We had the pop groups like Banana Armour and Kylie Minogue and all that stuff. Yeah. We had a lot of success in Japan because I don't know whether you're familiar, but Stock Aitken and Waterman had many hits. So,
yeah, wow. So how was it working with all the pop groups? Were they very, very awesome musicians, being able to sing, those tight harmonies, etc., or were they directed very heavily?
No, with Stock Aitken and Waterman, basically it was Pete ruled the roost. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He had lots of hits, and Mike Stock was a great, or is a great songwriter, and basically it was called the Hit Factory, and basically a lot of the time they didn't even get to choose the songs. Like Mike would write the songs, and then the artist would come in and say, this is what you're going to sing. They would sing, and then they would go. The next time they heard it was when they were doing the video, usually. So it was a bit like, but that's how a lot of it was in that sort of day.
Yeah, it was pre-written.
Today, marketing. Produce.
There we go.
Reels. Some bands don't get the importance of this.
Oh, so best. Well, today's marketing, obviously. In fact, we've got an organization because everybody records a lot. It's a lot cheaper now and things like that. But the main thing is, it's all right sitting in the studio and recording a great record. But nowadays, if you're not marketing it, and the thing is, you've always got to have a radio ready before you even start. I think you've got to have a radio ready record. You've got to have the video. It's got to go with all that stuff. And then unfortunately, I don't like people saying that music's free, but it's not. It costs money to market it, with the Facebooks and the Spotify, and even on Spotify, like a lot of people will go that and they'll get no views. So you've got to market yourself on Spotify. So it's not just a case of, right, I'm just going to make a record, spend all this time, and then I'm just going to bung it up onto Spotify, and hopefully I'll be successful. I don't think it happens, you know. Saying sorry, I mean video
instead of music show
reels.
Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays, because record companies don't develop anybody, you know, the fee for producing records has gone down. I think you have to, if you're an independent artist, you have to be as ready as you possibly can, you know, as best as you. And at the end of the day, you can produce a record. It sounds fantastic, but if the song's not there, you know, it's got to be all about the song, really, you know, because you can write a big hit song and it can just be you singing in the guitar, but it's always got to be the song's got to come first, I believe, anyway, you know.
And what about,
because you know what producers are like and engineers, we'll faff about forever, you know.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There we go. Terry got something there. And what about Mike? Mike, there. Do you want to answer that question too about the importance of having a show reel, Mike?
Well, I think the video is important, but when somebody says, like, even I'm just looking at this text here, we got 2.2K views in a 1 hour show. There's kids sitting in their garage with their iPhone and doing a funny song and goofing around, and somehow they get 3 million views on YouTube. Right. I don't think it's the matter of how many views you're getting. It's the importance of the magnitude of the song that you're presenting. The video behind it is important equally, because everything's a video world now. Everybody watches and listens to everything on a YouTube video on their iPhone. They want to see it and hear it. But if the song's lame and the song's bad and it's not well recorded, I don't care how good the video is, no one wants to watch it. So the video, yes, the video can be very important, but it needs to be backed up by a very good song.
Yeah, of course. I mean, also as well, what frustrates me a lot is, I mean, I was talking to somebody wanting me to do their album for them, and I was talking to him about we've got this new artist called Judah, who's 19 years old. I've never worked with an artist that's got so much soul at that age, that young, right? And it is, we've signed him to the production company. We're writing together now. You know, he's one of our artists. And I remember talking to somebody from a record company, and I said, I've got this guy, he's fantastic. The first question out of his mouth was, how many views has he got? I said, I don't know. I said, but I don't care. I don't want him to be. So the thing is, what I still believe, all these, you know, you record all these songs and everybody bungs them out so everybody's got access to them for nothing. So when you want to release them properly with a video, people have already heard them. So it's good. It's very difficult to sort of like say, right, I put all my songs out on YouTube. They never got paid for it. They never got anything whatsoever. And then it's crazy. It's just craziness to me. And I believe that it's like, I remember when MySpace first came out and all the record companies was going, oh, they've got 50,000 likes, so when we're going to sell 50,000 records or 100,000 records or whatever, and it never ever happened. And I think a lot of young artists are fooled into, all right, if you do this. Somebody contacted me on LinkedIn the other day where somebody was asking for money to be introduced so they could introduce him to major labels and which I don't think anybody should pay for that, you know, at all. It should be, you know, I mean, record companies aren't even going to sign a major an independent artist unless they've got loads of likes and the videos and stuff like that. But what another thing that I don't like that I found on the internet the other day was these streaming farms. And all it was a room as big as a studio, and all it had was mobile phones. And they're all mobile phones at people. And I've never heard of this before. Maybe it's been going on for ages. And there was people employed just to click, 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 click. So basically, I was told by a good friend of mine as well that, you know, there's a lot of people with gold records that just shouldn't even have them. Because if you put on, if you've got a loop of just 15 seconds, then you're getting these likes and these clicks. So none of it's real anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like when we did the share record and everything, you know, and I was talking to somebody, for instance, if today you remember, I'm a big Led Zeppelin fan. I have been since and
Me
the
too.
production, what Jimmy Page does, it's still fantastic now. But can you imagine the way that Led Zeppelin broke? They never had no social media. Can you imagine if they got a band like Led Zeppelin and the old school people, and then the new school said, right, now go and promote your record? I mean, people nowadays would last 5 minutes. They're not going to get in. They're not going to want to go and sit in a van with a PA with PA system to sit on, because they just wouldn't do it, because they don't realise what the old people like me, and especially Remco, our friend. He's much older than all of us, obviously. But but can you? I mean, even the Beatles. For 5 years, the Beatles were touring up and down the motorway in Germany. Led Zeppelin did. Elton John did. All the
road.
people, the Eagles did. So, and I think it's going, because they're not making money now as much. They're going to have to go on the road, and if they're not good enough, they're not going to do anything. So, you have to. I still believe, when I'm doing guitars now, I'll just cycle around the solo and I'll just play. But it doesn't seem that long ago when you'd have to get it right, or to drop you in. You'd have to be able to play a verse.
I've just got.
No, you're not, Remco.
I've just got Jason McNamara going to drop in from Japan right now to ask you some questions. Is that cool?
All right. Okay. Yeah, of course it is.
Here we go. Captain Jason, how you going, sir?
Hey, I'm not hearing anything from you guys. Can you hear me?
Hello, Jason.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
can I hear now, Jason? How are you doing?
Sorry, because I can't hear Jack. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Hello. Testing 1 2 over Japan.
It's weird. I can hear you coming through my laptop, but not through my sound device. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Greetings. Nice to meet you.
So you got a question
Nice to
for
meet you too.
I'm really blown away by this. I got to admit, I know Doug. Actually, you know what? I'm going to quickly share this on my live streams as well, because it's a crazy thing. But what you were just saying about all the views and all the rest of it, it's really sad. But that's just the way the world sees it now. And whether we like it or not, unfortunately, so many people are in that mindset. We're stuck with it, which is not a good thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, it's all fake. It's all fake. Like when you look at a photograph of somebody, you don't know what they really look like that anymore. And now I think the music. When I couldn't even tell you what's number one in the charts, in any charts anymore, and I don't think anybody really cares anymore either.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like the whole, I remember growing up listening to the exact music that you were playing on. I mean, I was 13 in 1985, and because I'm Australian as well, like Doug. I grew up listening to "We Close Our Eyes" by Go West, and everybody Wang Chung Tonight by Wang Chung.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly, because that era in the 80s is when I first started getting in professionally, and Go West. I remember first hearing Go West, and I thought, this is a proper band that could. In that day, everybody could play, like Tears for Fears, and that's sort of my era. And I used to be in Nick Kershaw's band. Do you remember Nick Kershaw?
Yeah.
Of course. You were in Nick's band.
Yeah.
I was in Nick's band, and then I was in another band called Climby Fisher with Simon Climby and Rob Fisher.
I don't know that one.
So I was. The song Climby Fisher had some big hits in Europe and stuff, and but I was in that band. But I was with Nick and Nick Kershaw. I mean, and that band the band that we had was just phenomenal. It was a really and you had to be good to play Nick stuff, because it was very. It wasn't the easiest things,
I'd noticed.
I've not been playing keyboard long.
Musician. He's a very, very talented.
Can I
Yeah,
I've got to tell you this. Before I was in his band, I was managed by Mickey Modern, which is his manager. And when I first heard Nick Kershaw's album, I was absolutely I thought it was fantastic, and it was great that I ended up in his band. But then I started writing with Nick. Me and Nick did a couple of few things after the tour had finished. And Nick Kershaw, I think Nick Kershaw is one of the best songwriters on the planet. His lyrics are fantastic. He's just, he can write pop stuff. He can, I've heard a lot of songs that Nick's done for demos that are just great pop songs for pop artists, And it is that is great. And even I was a friend of Rod Temperton, who wrote Thriller, and I went to his house. And I went to his house.
just name drop that Thriller. That's awesome.
And Rod, but just to let you know that when I mentioned that I was in Nick's band to Rod Temperton, it was his favourite songwriter as well.
Wow.
So Nick was and very well respected, but he never really wanted to be in the bubblegum pop thing. That was just what I cared. And he's a great guitar player, great songwriter, great guy as well. Very, And the thing is, I'm nearly 6'4", and Nick's maybe mixed.
That's true.
Mixed. And Nick is about 5'6", I think, or 5'5". So he used to stand when we was at Wembley Arena playing it. Nick used to stand next to me, so it looks like I used to stand back. He used to shove me out the way,
Oh,
I was too tall. I was too tall for him.
So were you playing with Howard Jones as well? I mean, he's a keyboard player himself, but were you working with Howard too?
No, I didn't work. It was along the same time. I worked with, the people that Stock Aitken and Waterman developed was like Dead or Alive. There was so much Donna Summer. I worked, and I wrote with Donna. I mean, Pete would say. I remember Pete Waterman said to me, he used to come in and say, "Gary, I want three songs for Thursday," and it was a Monday night. I said, "Oh, all right then, Pete." I said, "Who is it?" And he went, "Donna Summer," and I was going, "Pete, who?" I said, "Donna Summer, she's coming in, and we want 3 songs." "Yeah, you know what to do," and he'd just walk out. So
So when you did that, when you actually did that, did you chart them all old school and write some, like hit chart or jazz chart, lead sheet? How did you document that for the other musos?
He can barely see us.
I can't see it. I ain't got to me.
We got a 70-inch TV screen in here about 4 feet from his face when he's mixing.
Yeah, I'm not wearing sunglasses. I can't see if I take them off. I can't see. I'm not wearing my sunglasses to try and be cool over on a video. It's just like I can't see. But
so you must have an amazing ear then, because you remind me of Tommy Emmanuel. Because he doesn't read either.
I've done everything on guitar. I'll tell you what I first used to do. When I remember getting my uncle buying me the Led Zeppelin 2 album, and I would sit there, and it was a record player, and it was too fast, so I would put pennies on the arm of the needle, I could slow it right down so I could hear every note, and I would sit for hours and hours just practicing it, and then gradually speeding it up so that I could get it.
That's what they call a quick study.
So.
What we say in America, somebody that can hear a song and learn how to play it in 5 minutes or 5 seconds. Just this afternoon, I was going through my old hard drives, playing some of my old music from 15, 20 years ago for Gary. And he was sitting on the couch, and I think I played 3 songs. And each one of them, he was sitting with the acoustic guitar playing the bass line within seconds.
Yeah, I think
that charted out. Just you have an intuition. When I was young, I could walk into a bar with a live band playing cover songs that I've never played before in my life, but I've heard them before. And they say, "Oh, our bass player is ill. Can you sit in for us?" And I jump on stage and play the bass lines like I was playing on the record.
But you
just sits right into you.
I mean, it's like you're a guitarist yourself, Doug. And once we used to put bands together with. I mean, we put a band together once. It was me, Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, Sam Aliano, who's a drummer who's actually an Australian guy as well. But this was in a small little wine bar in Malibu, and we used to play there, But the thing is, we never knew what we were doing. We used to say, and Ellis Hawke, then we used to get different singers. I had the singer Neil Turban from Anthrax, and Ira Black, who was another great guitarist, good friend of ours, and people would just used to come.
Friend of mine too.
Do you know? Oh, Ira's a very good friend of mine. He's a great.
He's a beautiful human. He really is. Him and his he does so well on his vegan diets. I can't believe it. I couldn't do that.
And have you been watching him on Facebook doing his little dances and everything?
Oh, he's hilarious. Like his whole series that he does of things, he's great, and his cooking stuff as well, like food tours and stuff, were pretty funny.
Well, the great thing about all them plays, so we just used to play and just used to go right, and and when I went to Ellis Hall, who actually wants to come and do this with you, Doug, as well. I don't know what's happened to him today, but
yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you, sir.
Just before we'd start, I'd be saying, he'd say to me, "We're doing this one," and I'd say, "What's the first chord?" And as long as I could get the first chord, and then if I couldn't remember it, I'd just wing it and just turn my volume down and pretend to play and turn it back up again. I think learning things through because from the age of 9 years old, I had to learn everything from a record. And then when all the in the 80s, when all the keyboard things started to come out for us in Europe anyway, or in England, I just bought myself a Horner Pianette T, and I couldn't play, and I would just mess about with it, and so I just started. And the same with keyboards. And the first time I played keyboards, I used to be in a group with Stuart Matthewman, who was one of the founders of Sade, and he wrote all the songs.
Oh, wow.
And I remember saying to him, he knew. We used to rehearse, and it was in a group called Admiral Hawk, and we used to wear these stripy cat suits, and we'd do all funk dance stuff, you know. And Stuart was the sax player, and we used to rehearse in his mother's living room, and he had a piano there, and he used to play this. Do you remember the song "Music" by John Miles years ago?
Right.
I don't know whether you're familiar with it. And basically, I said to him, "You teach me how to play that, and I'll teach you some guitar things." And that's how I first started playing bits of piano, you know, and things like that. But it's all been from the ear. I mean, I ain't got a clue. Yeah. But if you put, I can read chord, you know, chord sheets. But even then, sometimes I think, "What was that again?" And I'd say, "Just play me it." You know,
it's funny you say that, because I like that concept about just using ears, like turning the lights off. And I don't know if you practice this at home, you turn the lights off, complete darkness. How do you get out of the room? By making mistakes. And it's very normal to make mistakes until you build a mental image of where you're at. So with music, a lot of the kids, a lot of younger students that I have, they expect to have the light on straight away. They show me, they want to say, "How do I play that Eddie Van Halen lick? How do I do this, and this?" They don't want to go through the process of failing, which grows the ear. Yeah. What do you say about that, Jason?
Look, I mean, you have to mess up to get better, you know. And I think little things like when you as a musician, you learn something, for example, like the sound of a G chord. You could detune a guitar down 2 steps, 3 steps, but once your ear gets to learn the intonation of that sound, you know that's the position your fingers have got to go into. And even if it's, say, tuned down like an entire 5 semitones, you can still hear the resonance of those intervals, so you know what it is. And I think that's really what it boils down to. You've got to fail to be able to succeed.
I got this guitar. I heard something last night on the TV. I thought, I'm going to nick a bit of that. I like that. It was,
look at that.
So it was
famous producer. Let's steal it.
Oh, well, you steal it and swap it around a bit. Everybody does that, you know. They might not admit it, but they do.
Sonny Bono was the king of that. Back in the Sonny and Cher days, Sonny Bono was so good at taking familiar melodies from famous songs and twisting it and turning it around and developing songs for Sonny and Cher, and they had their TV show. He was absolutely one of the kings of that.
Yeah.
Like retrograde the melody, turn it upside down. Yes.
Yeah, turn it upside down, twist it around, but still keep some familiarity of the melody or the hook in the song, to where people would listen to this new song by Sonny and Cher and go, "I don't really understand why the fuck I like this so much, but I love it," you know. And it's just subliminal, you know. They can't stop listening to it, but it's something that they really good musicians and producers have learned to do over the years. I mean, there's only so many chords and so many melodies you can come up with, but
seven of them
in
music. Yeah, in Western music.
I have to say, though, unfortunate.
Something like some familiar melody, and a lot of artists even subconsciously write songs that are great hit songs, not even knowing amongst themselves that they've done that. It's just because of an influence of something, and it's turned into the most greatest hit songs on the planet, you know, and it's been repeated through history. it's just hard to go back through them and put them all in a category like these 5 songs are all the same as these 5 songs. No one does that.
Forgive me to ask again. What was your last name again, Mike? Sorry.
My wife's name?
Yeah, your last name.
No, your last.
Oh, Williams.
Williams, thank you. Sorry, I was just trying to remember. Sorry, forgive me. I'm struggling because there's just too much awesomeness going on here.
Come on, Jason, keep up, mate. Come on.
On your point just there, I was going to mention that.
Thanks, Steve.
It's exactly right what you said about it being done and done, because that whole 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. Oh my God! If we erase that from pop music, there'd be like half the songs in the world would just be gone in a second.
I'll just hang it up.
And also as well, there's nothing wrong in doing it. I mean, people. I've got a lyric book of Sting, and at the top there it says, "Well, I borrowed this from so and so, and I was watching a documentary with Richie Blackmore, and he's saying this riff. Oh, I took this from Eddie Cochran, and same with Jimmy Page. They would, so they're actually being quite open about it, but they've changed and made it their own. I mean, it's like if you want to learn something, you read a book or you go to a library or you go to Google or whatever. But I mean, you've got to look at what they did and why it was successful. And I think, I do it all the time. The thing is, and then Rod Temperton said this to me. He said, if I was to sit in a room, look at trying to just manifest something, he said I'd be there for days, So I think it's in my particular case, if I'm going to start to write songs, I'll always say to an artist, well, just send me an email of your 5 favorite songs of all time, and but they have to have been hit. They've all got to be in the top 5, Yeah. And then I'll listen to them. Then it gives me an idea what they're like, and I will start off with that. I will start off with that. I mean, I've even told people to get, for instance, when you're writing lyrics, get a popular song, a really famous song, and change the lyrics. Then when you've changed the lyrics, change the chords. I mean, you can't actually start. It's a good starting point. And the thing is, I wrote a song the other week which everybody's raving about. But it started off from A Day in the Life by the Beatles. Now, it's nothing like it anymore. It doesn't sound, I couldn't ever get sued for it. But that's where it started. And then that made me, and I thought, oh, this is good. And I would never have done that change. And it was just the way, so I think it's really helpful. It's not stealing. You're learning from, if you're going to learn somebody, learn something from John Lennon and Paul McCartney, all Jimmy Page in production and things like that.
I find it funny and interesting sometimes when a band will come in here and record a song and we'll mix it and they'll take it home to their friends and family. And then their friends and family go, you guys sound just like so-and-so. And then the band will come back and go, God damn it, we don't want to sound like so-and-so. We want to sound like ourselves. I go, why are you mad? Congratulate yourselves. Your songs don't sound like those guys, but if somebody out there listens to your music and thinks it's reminiscent of something that was great, pat yourselves on the back. Don't get bummed out about it. It's a great thing.
Well, everybody says, look at Prince. He danced.
Sorry. I was going to say, I'd love to present that to somebody with Bohemian Rhapsody and just say, try and recreate this.
Well, it's funny talking about classic songs. Stairway to Heaven, right? With the contrary motion, right? Melody going up, bass line going down. I can't do this back to front.
Oh, yeah.
But so they got it. Well, I got a jazz degree, so I had to study Duke Ellington. So Duke Ellington did that all the time. Most of his songs actually do exactly the same concert. So, and if you go back further, Bach did it. So where does it start and stop? Country motion, and all of a sudden they were getting sued over this concept. Yeah, it's just funny.
I remember this. Let It Be. What Paul McCartney's Let It Be. I remember I started doing quite a few movie scores. I started listening to a lot of classical stuff and things like that. And I come over this track. I think it was it might have been Bach or Beethoven. I'm not sure. And I thought I'll just listen to it, see what chords they're playing.
Oh wow!
Trust me, it was Let It Be. Exactly. So I played it on the piano. It was Let It Be, and I'm sure and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. because there's a lot of other aspects to go into making a record than just nicking a riff. If I nick it,
The melodic minor sound. If you're into guitar playing, you may or not be into it, but especially in jazz, Bach did that 150 years before they even called it melodic minor scale. So,
is that right? Really?
Right? Yeah.
yes. So you can Google
I'll
that.
tell you what I always remember. I got my first a few years ago. I got my first full movie score to do because I love doing that as well, and it was for the Russian market. And I'd never really listened to classical music before, but a friend of mine put me on to. I always call him Arena. I can't even pronounce his name. Macaroni, but it's not Macaroni, but Ennio Macaroni. He did all the spaghetti westerns, and he's a fantastic composer. And I started listening to that, and I thought, well, I don't know anything about music because it was just I couldn't believe it. You know how good it was. You know.
I heard even Chopin used to have everything tuned to 432 instead of 440.
And what do you guys think of that whole concept?
The 432 tuning thing, the cosmic debris about it all, and how it's in line with the planet and the universe and all that. Okay, so I heard about that, and one of my buddies was telling me, "Hey, we got to turn everything to 432." So we all turned our guitars to 432 and played, and we're just a little bit down pitch.
Very scientific
magic, or anything else. But and there's an argument about 432 that all of a sudden harmonics and certain harmonies don't work and don't ring when you go down to 432 from 440.
For your cells, it's supposed to be a massage for your cell. And it's funny that since the invention of these things, I'm actually putting together a PhD application. It's a true story, and I've still got to get my thesis, massaged into place. Anyway, just putting this out there. When we listen to loud music, only the musicians usually listen to loud music these days, unless you go to concert stand in front of big subs.
Right.
But our cells, our whole body, the only place we listen to music with our whole body is usually our motor vehicle, right?
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
But most people listen to talkback radio.
Right.
So I don't know. Just putting it out there.
And windshield wipers generally move at 120 beats per minute.
Right. And the other thing is that most of our bodies, why people may be sick, I'm not saying I know this, haven't done a study, but most of our bodies are being exposed to industrial sound, not musical sound. We can feel the big bus, the big bus go past, the big train go past, the big crane moving. So, Matt, all I'm saying is go to freaking concerts. That's what you need to do. You can support the art.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a visual argument.
I think it's a feel thing, isn't it? Music's a really everything you play from keyboard, especially guitar. I mean, I'm playing guitar sometimes, and people go, "That's great, that," but you just know when it's not. It doesn't feel right to you, as you know. So
there is a visual argument to this thing as well, in the fact that for some reason they claim that when you use a blue filter on Instagram posts, it gets more views and more likes and more reactions than when you use standard, kind of similar to the 440 versus 432 theory, mind you.
Right.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's why I got
I think a lot of these theories there's something in it. I think there's something in all this theory because music is supposed to be, and I agree. The quickest things to people's emotions. I mean, I often wonder why do I like this song by Don Henley, and these people can't stand it. I think the Eagles fantastic, but there's people who just can't bear it. But it's you can't really argue about music because it's your own feeling and your own opinion. I think
subjective versus objective. The world's biggest.
Exactly.
The Eagles are creating a lot of.
I got extremely offended in junior high school when I did a painting in junior high. I was like 15 or 16 years old, and my teacher gave me a B on it. And I just went to her like, "Well, who the hell are you to grade art? To give me a B on a piece of painting I just did? Fuck you. I got really angry. I didn't understand how they could give a grade to an abstract painting, a piece of artwork. It really offended me. So it's the same thing with music.
I mean, when you think music's used for a lot of things, like good and bad. I mean, obviously you get a lot of, music's used for bad things, and it's used for great things, which is why I wanted to use what I can do to do something good to help child trafficking. To create awareness, because I knew I'd been through years of you have all the companies have hit records, but it starts to become a bit meaningless. But when you do, that's why I know, but I'm very convinced that it touches people. And this album that I've done, they're all Sting songs. I mean, you just hear that body of work, how fantastic it all is, and it does touch you really emotionally, I think.
Yeah, well, look, they say music is I was watching all these docos on Einstein about the theory of relativity. But anyway, what I understand, someone else can maybe explain it better than I can, but if you look at a slide, if you look at a piece of art, 2D, you get the whole information in one hit. But with music, it's a stack of slides, right? But the thing is that with music, there is no visual stimulus. It's only your story, what it means to you. And this is why it's so unique. However, you have to add, to appreciate the art, you have to add time. So whatever your favorite song is, let's say if it's Hotel California, the guitar solo, you have to wait right to the end.
You have to wait for that your best bit
to experience it. Well, so you go through all those slides.
That goes back to somebody's question earlier about saying that music and video are a marriage, and I just don't agree with that. I think music is an emotional, spiritual thing you hear through your ears and through your soul. And sometimes seeing it on the screen can just ruin that.
Yeah, I agree. It's someone else's idea, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I agree with
for marketing. I guess I understand the marketing and the money side of that, and at the same time, you can have a bunch of absolutely gorgeous people on screen with amazing makeup and a great set playing the shittiest song on the planet. And it's getting 1 million views a day, but the songs that transcend history that are still selling relevant, and still people will still listen to it, and artists that become immortal for all time from one song. It's not what it looked like, it's what it sounded like, and how it was written, how it was presented, and the spiritual soul and fire that came out of that artist when they did it.
Yeah,
those are the pieces of music and art from all creators of music, way back to the history, Mozart and Chopin and everything, all the way till now. But those are the kind of pieces of compositions and pieces of artwork of music that stand the test of time. I don't necessarily agree with the visual side of it.
I mean, I think it's important, but what I think about when you listen to songs as well. You talk about that coming at the end. I was brought up on that. Now today's music. A lot of the things that happen, when I'm producing a record, I like it to start off and it's developing, so that you've got little bits of things that you've never heard before, right until the outro. They don't do that now. They start off, it's like a 4-bar loop, and that's it. Let's copy that for
trance-like
3 minutes and do some drops, and then that's it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think I agree with that. You wait for them little parts, and I hear some ad-libs at the end of some songs that I like that don't come till the end, and I look forward to all that. But nowadays, you don't seem to, it doesn't seem to happen. But what I've just done, I got this young hip hop artist, and he'd done all these raps and everything, and I said to him, why don't you let me try? Because obviously the great thing about rap that I've just discovered is that he'd done a rap to some backing track he'd downloaded from downline, but I could just do anything I wanted because it worked. It all worked. So I said, why don't you let me
Thanks,
produce this and arrange this so things starting off and things are coming in, and
Thank you, Kelly.
And he loved it. It was, and so I think we're missing that sort of like arrangement in music again, and which I love.
The surprise chord,
and I think that's missing in, but I think it's coming back.
Yeah,
I think Elton John,
exactly just that, and I try and do that all the time with everything that I do.
Elton John's 1971 album Tumbleweed Connection for me has some of the best arrangements in history.
Again.
Sorry, Jason.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic, fantastic.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying, I think Elton John's 1971
Hey.
album, Tumbleweed Connection, has some of the best arrangements in recorded history.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with you totally, Jason. I mean, with Elton, I was on tour with Elton for with Nick Kershaw for about 4 or 5 months, and Elton John is just you. I don't think I realised how good he was until I was actually there. Because you hear the songs you like, but in the back in the day, Bernie would just fax over Elton, and I don't know how he does this. He would just fax over a bunch of lyrics, and then Elton John would just sit there and start fiddling about with it, and he comes up with the stuff that he did. So and that's all a feel thing again. I'm not sure whether Elton can read or anything like that. But it's the feel that he's got is just unbelievable. When somebody sends him a bunch of lyrics, he looks at it like that, he starts fiddling about. I think somebody told me once, I don't know how true it is, but they said if Elton's a bit stuck, the first thing he does is he'll play a hymn, the chords for hymns, and things like that.
It's funny.
There's all sorts of different ways, but I think we need to go back to some arrangements.
I like what you just said there, Gary, about Elton would play something to get himself in a centered state, because I actually want to do a series on this concept, full stop. Maybe you guys will be able to help me, maybe Jason as well. It's called flow state. So when mixing a record, there's that state where there's no thought, you're actually completely present, so that you're actually completely reacting to the music. And for me, it's the next day after I've done something and I come into my project with fresh ears.
Exactly, yeah.
And I go, oh, the tension was too much or not enough, and it's the first listen that helps me pull into a record, because I just did a record called.
That's exactly what I do.
Right. Oh, cool. The next day. So I just did a record called Post Traumatic Express. It was actually my honors in composition. I'm a shredder by trade, actually, but this record is not really shreddy. But Steve Vai's producer, Greg Worth, actually mastered my record, which blew me away. Yeah.
I've heard the record, and it's very, 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 very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But I did some techniques about recording techniques. I can go through probably, I don't know if this is the forum, but I did other processes of recording. Instead of being in a centered state, track number 2 is called F12 Resonant. It stands for Fucked 1 2. So when because I lost my sister, she was murdered. It was a pretty heavy record, so it's very cathartic. So the second track is about being anger, but not being externally angry, but internally angry. And my point is, with the solo, I was actually a bawling mess. I was crying all over the place. And so I actually recorded what came out in that space instead of trying to be on it, if that makes sense. Yeah, anyway, I was just experimenting.
No, it does totally.
Yeah. And so I guess getting to my... No, you go.
No, so I always do it. It's again, I'll always, when I start recording, I'm playing guitar, I will always put it in record straight away, even if I'm fiddling about, because I think music should be quite spontaneous as well. And I think some of the best things I'll do will be the first things that you do, and then you start fiddling about with it, and all you do is you just end up making it worse as you go on.
Because that's flow state, right? Because when you're not thinking, it's the first time's the right time, because you've actually the natural reaction to it.
Exactly, yeah.
That's one of the things I've noticed more often than not in the studio with different musicians, especially drummers. When they come in and the artist has come up with a song, he's playing his guitar, his acoustic guitar, and the drummer's in the room. The first thing the drummer does, the first 1 or 2 passes of that song where he just comes and sits into it, he plays exactly the right thing for the song, the way he heard it when the artist presented the music to him, and then later thinks about it and goes, well, everyone does that beat, so I'm going to switch it up and let's try this and try that. But usually the very first thing that he did was absolutely the perfect thing you could possibly imagine him ever doing, and then you can overthink yourself and then bury yourself in
all right, okay.
I suggest everybody watching get on their Apple Music or Spotify or whatever and have a listen to this, because it is a really, truly incredible journey. And Doug does an amazing job of saying what he needed to say. I mean, the fact that his sister was murdered and the circumstances which he's told me about, and he wrote a record to try and process his feelings and everything.
Yeah.
It's really staggering. It really is.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. And I guess the reason why I did this is it help people have the conversation, right? You know, grief is, even right now, everyone's grieving because no one can do live music, full stop. So when something changes, we have to deal with it. What were you going to say?
Well, I had the same thing. I had the same thing. I lost my brother.
Oh, sorry to hear
My
that.
brother died when he was 28, and at the time I was working at I was working at PWL, and I remember somebody coming in. I was telling me, and you know when you're in sort of like shock and I couldn't believe it. And I remember Paul Barry, who was a great songwriter, who wrote Hero and Believe and all this stuff. We was working together, and I remember he said, "Gary, come on, let's go home," you know. And I said, and I remember saying, "I've just got to finish this mix." And it was really strange. I've always remembered that. I've just been told that my brother was dead, but it was like I was in shock. I couldn't really register it all. So I did finish the mix before I went home. It was really strange. I think I did it on autopilot, but you know. But,
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it says strange. But and also going back to that what you said about your ears, you know, about getting tired and you think it's sounding great and you go back the next day and it sounds awful. I mean, I've done that so many times because your ears definitely get fatigued, and that happens with me a lot of the time. And I think because what happens, it's sounding great, and then all of a sudden it starts to sound worse and worse. So as soon as I get to the point where I think I thought it sounded great 5 minutes ago, then I'll stop because I know my ears are getting tired.
What was that song by Frank Zappa in Joe's Garage where he says, "But a couple of quarts of beer would fix it so the intonation would not offend your ear."
I love Frank Zappa. He's awesome.
I have to say on the whole doing production side of things, the producer that I just worked with, Jay Hannon, who Doug just kindly put up his little hey now just there a second ago. Jay did a phenomenal job. We just actually released Brian. You might have even seen it. Brian May issued out a challenge to do the song Hammer to Fall with him. Have you seen there's a video that's like a bunch of videos going on about that,
really?
Guys? You haven't seen that at all?
No, I've not seen anything. No.
Well, I kind of went to an extreme. Doug, it's all right. You can say what you're going to say.
Yeah, it's an amazing. I think it's a testament. Yeah, so keep talking about. Yeah, Jason's a videographer as well, and amazing at his craft. So yeah, please keep saying.
So what happened was it's interesting you guys saying about video because I am a musician, as you can see by my gear here, but I've also turned from being a musician to being a professional videographer. So I've worked with Steve Vai and Jordan from Dream Theater and Striper and a whole bunch of different rock bands more so because I'm a rock musician myself. You can probably tell by the caliber of my guitars.
Oh, brilliant.
And Brian issued this challenge, and I called up a few of my famous friends like Jeff Scott Soto, who sang with them before, and Stu Ham, bass player, and Alex Skolnick, guitarist, and Marco Miniman on drums, and Kenny Aronoff on drums, and all these really cool people. Bumblefoot was on there as well. And I got all these friends together and I was like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. And everyone recorded the audio and then recorded their video. Some of them recorded their video and audio at the same time, but did them on separate devices. And we put the whole thing together. And I made a little storyline around it. Like RJ Hale from the band Hailstorm did a very, very, very funny performance on trash cans. But what my whole point of saying all this is, think about this. We had like 12 odd people bringing all these tracks together. And Jay Hannon, who we just mentioned there once again a second ago, received all of these tracks and put them together in his home studio and mixed the hell out of them and fixed, like, I sang Roger Taylor's mega, mega, mega high vocal harmony where, like, I go up to, when I'm singing the harmony, my highest note is this A. Which is kind of ridiculous, but I did it full voice in the room here. And I was just a little bit out of pitch because it's a very hard note to sing. And Jay corrected it, but made it sound not like auto-tune, but super smooth. He does it increment by increment just to save me. And then to get all those pieces together, get the reverbs right, get the tonality of everything right, get everything put together. He did a stupendous job. And my point, circling around to all of what you were saying before, is he said to me, all right, dude, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm wrecked. You can't do anything with it yet. I've got to come back with fresh ears in the morning and listen to it again and make sure I didn't get it wrong.
Right. Good story, though. It was good. Yeah, but totally agree. I think with
It is. It's true.
Sorry, what was that? So
The times I've been screwed up with mixes and stuff like that is when I've had to rush it, and people. The times I've been really screwed up with mixes is when I've been rushed and people have been in the studio at 6 o'clock in the morning saying, "Right, we're going to New York. We've got to get it mastered today," and it's never right. It's you've got to give yourself some space to listen to it again. You know.
And Gary, do you have a policy about kicking everyone out of the studio when you're getting in your flow state to make the decisions?
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff when I'm on my own, because the thing is, I drive everybody crazy.
Yeah, he does that naturally. When he's mixing, I can't stand to be in the room with him.
Because the thing, what you're doing, and he's talking about something else, and I'm saying, well, I'm listening to the hi-hat here. I'm making sure that, in fact, I've just done it before he came in earlier on. I was messing about with the hi-hat and this and all that stuff, but it gets boring for. I mean, the thing is, I could never stand to sit in the studio while somebody was faffing about with all that stuff, you know. It'd drive me crazy. I mean, I've woke up with my hand still on the mouse and the music cycling round because I've fallen asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. So,
I would actually
many people will say to you, like, how the hell can you listen to a 3-minute song 1,000 times, but go even further than that, listen to like 10 seconds of that 3-minute song 1,000 times in a row in that little loop over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You know, and they don't, you know, most people can't understand what, you know, that, and to have people in the room while you're doing that, it's almost like it's just.
And the only other problem about that, Matt, is like, you know what it's like when you're looking at something and you're thinking, I mean, when I'm maybe something will be cycling around, and as I'm doing that, I'll be thinking, I need to go to this plugin next. So you think you're sort of thinking ahead all the time, but it's still playing. And if there's other people in the room, you know, it's a natural thing to say, well, what about this? And what about this? I say, yeah, but I'm not thinking about that at the moment. And the people will sit there and they'll just get bored. So it's like, well, I'll say something. What about this? And it's just you understand what I mean, don't you?
I have a rule: no talking. First listen of the day is like golden moment. Like, no. If you're going to be in the room with me, you need to shut up because I only have fresh ears once a day. So
it's the same thing doing video editing, though. It's exactly the same because, like, you can send out a preliminary edit to somebody and they don't see the color grading that's yet to come, and they don't see, you know, there's little things that you've got in your head that are yet to come. It's exactly the same thing.
It's exactly. Well, you know what, Jason? That's what I'd love. I've started a little bit, but I'd love to learn video editing. I think if I knew the techniques. You know, I think I'd really like to do that. It's something that I really want to learn to do.
I'm going to make you a good little deal here, right? My producer buddy Jay Hannon, who's helped me out with that. If you give him a little bit of help with his stuff, I'll teach you how to video edit, and we'll all help each other and make a beautiful circle of just getting it done.
No problem, Jason. Whatever you need.
Well, I'll tell you what, Doug, if you don't mind, could you send Gary and Mike after the show, send them a link to the video for our Hammer to Fall video, and not to necessarily critique it as such, like, you know, it's not to rate Jay down, but just to say, you know, here's what we achieved. I mean, when it was all so scattered and everything was like coming from here and there and back over this side, and it was just crazy that Jay put it all together the way he did. And I love video editing.
Comments as we're watching it or afterwards?
You know what? If you want to do a reaction video, by all means, go for it. I won't stop you from doing that. I'd love to have that. To get you two doing a reaction video to that would just be phenomenal.
Yeah,
the strange thing about music and mixing these days. I had my friend Pancho San Pedro. He played guitar for Neil Young Crazy Horse for years, and he's an old school musician player, groove guitar player. And he came into the studio one day and goes, "Wow. You can see the music." You know, he didn't understand what is that about? You're looking at the graph and the transients of the vocal and the guitar. Like, you can see the music. Holy shit!
I love Jay's comment here. That's awesome. Now I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous, Jay.
You know, I got to tell you,
we'll be very gentle with you.
Jay really did a phenomenal job considering what we had to bring together to make that thing happen. I am so proud of him and what he did with that. So I'd love it if Doug could send it over to you guys just to have a look at.
Actually, no worries.
I will ask this because you know what? I'm a real opportunist. That's kind of my nature. That's how I get to where I go. And I know a lot of famous people, but I need more. So here's what we're doing up next. Yeah. We are going to do, Brian has issued a challenge to do We Are the Champions now. And here's my plan.
You're not going to believe this in a minute.
You're not going to believe this.
Go on, carry on.
You know, I'm almost scared to be able to tell you the rest of my story now, but I'll go through it. Anyway.
Go on then.
unless you're planning to answer the challenge, then we might be in trouble. So I've already called up a bunch of people. Steve Lukather is going to be a part of it. Orianthi is going to be a part of it. Virgil Donati is going to lead.
I know both them too.
Of course you do. Virgil Donati.
Yeah.
Marco Miniman's doing drums again. Stu Ham's doing bass. James Lamenzo's doing bass. Alex Skolnick's doing some guitar. I've got another friend who I shouldn't really say the name, but let's just say one of the most celebrated. I don't want to give this away, so don't even question me. I'll just say this. One of the most celebrated progressive metal guitar players ever is being approached to at least see if he's willing to do it. So that's all I'll say on that. So we've got all these people interested. Now, the goal of this one is not to be a comedy one. The first one we did for Hammer to Fall was funny and silly and crazy and outrageous. This one is going to be a very heartfelt thank you to all of the crucial workers and the responders and stuff. So all the doctors and nurses, supermarket workers, garbage collectors.
Exactly.
You know, we're doing a very, very heartfelt thank you. Tommy Emmanuel's going to play on it as well, by the way.
Awesome.
So we've got a really stellar lineup. But what I'm putting together with this is I'm getting people to look into camera and say to all the doctors, or to all the veterinarians, or maybe to all the stay-at-home parents and so on, and then do another one where they say thank you. And we're going to put that together and make a really beautiful tribute where at the end we put on the screen, we are not the champions, you are. Yeah, so it's a real tribute to those people. So my request to you guys... Thank you. So my request to you is if you could reach out to some of the people that you've been talking about that you've worked with, if I maybe send you an email, which Doug can maybe hook us up. You don't have to, no pressure. This is just if you are interested.
I don't mind doing that at all, definitely.
Thank you. And just ask them, if they'd be willing to just send in that little video to us, it would just... I want this project to really reach those people because the more household names that they see on it, I know a lot of the metal guys, but to get the more household names on it for them to go, wow, these people give a crap about us and they're grateful for what we're doing. I think we could do something that even governments haven't really managed to do correctly to say thank you to those people. Music transcends.
I think that's a great... Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that, Jason, because I did a record I've done the Rock Against Traffic in the Anglo version, but then I started the Spanish, and I worked with Beto Cuevas, who was #1 in the charts in the Spanish Latin market. And he called me up yesterday, and I did Fragile with him. The Sting Fragile.
Oh, I thought you were going to say yes, it's Fragile then.
On it, so Beto did the vocal. Carlos did an instrumental version. Wow. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do Fragile, and he's going to get a lot of some big Spanish stars. And do it for that reason, because of how fragile we are, because of what's happening now. It's very relevant. So that we're actually going to do that with the song "Fragile," but for the Spanish market. So yes, and anything we could do, I think, when you've been doing it a long time, I think it's important to sort of help other people,
give back for the.
I mean, I never ever say this is what you should be doing. I'll always say, well, this is how I would do it, but you might do it different. And I think that's true. It's like everybody will do something different. So it's when I ever talk about what I do, it's only the way I do it. Somebody will have a different idea. You can learn from a 15-year-old kid.
Correct.
These days.
What was your We Are the Champions
definitely, Jason. That sounds great. No
thank
worries
you.
at
Also,
all.
I've received your email address. A common friend of ours who's watching the show just sent me your email address, so I'll hit you up after the show. Thank you.
Remco, probably, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Cool. He should be back of house guy. But maybe Mike and Jason, you might know some Japanese artists, do you? Because having a lot to do with Japan.
I mean, look, my wife's Japanese. I live in Tokyo.
I've got. Sorry to cut, but I've got a friend of mine called. Do you know Sewan Kim?
That's Korean name, not Japanese.
Do you know Sewan Kim, who was in the group from Korea Next? He's a great guitar player. He'll
The guy that was at Richie's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very famous in South Korea as well. You know, he's the equivalent of Slash.
Wow.
And he would love to do it. I know, without even speaking to him. He's a great player as well. It's Sewan Kim, but I just call him James. It's easy for me because I'm from Hull. But no, he's one that I can say straight away. Maybe Larry Carlton would get involved as well. Yeah,
we'll have to get Larry on this show. Larry on this show.
I'm gonna. Well, I wanted to try and get Larry on this today if I could have, but I just haven't been able to. But I will do. I'll talk to him about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
name
amazing.
just name drop that.
Yeah, no joke. I was just like Larry Carlton.
Oh yeah.
Everyone, the problem is if you get Larry Carlton, everyone else is going to run to the hills and go, "I ain't touching this shit if Larry's on there." Exactly.
He's amazing. I love.
Well,
Larry,
you know, Larry's. I mean, he's fantastic. He's always been. When I first did that Room 335 album, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, that's why you just asked me about. You just asked me about my.
That's why I was looking at that 335.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another friend of mine that I was with that was also unbelievable. Do you know Carlos Rios? Do you know Carlos?
Rings a bell.
He was the guy. Have you heard the album Brother to Brother, Gino Vanelli?
I think so.
Is that Wild Horses? He played on Wild Horses, right?
Well, Carlos did the full album when he was 8. Listen to Brother album, Gino Vanelli. Listen to the guitar solos on that album are some of the best, like compared to Kid Charlemagne that Larry does, you know, and all that sort of Don't Take Me Alive and everything. But listen to the Brother album and listen to the guitar solos. They're so melodic, but so, you know, it's fantastic. And he lives in the valley, so you can reach out to him as well.
This is from 1978.
You've already got, yeah. Unbelievable! Wow. It's and I don't know what he was. Lionel Richie's musical director, and he was on the tour with George Michael, Stevie Nicks' musical director. I'm sure he'd be up for doing some things.
I'm looking it up right now.
You worked with Lionel too, didn't you?
I did a couple of records with Lionel. And
which records did you do with Lionel?
He's a nice guy. I did a song on a compilation album with him, a duet with this young 19-year-old up and coming star, and then I worked with Mark Taylor on the song. But I think it was a bit of a hit called Angel. That was out and everything like that.
Wow.
So, but a lot of the things that we used to do, we remember when I was in London, we would never do full albums because we was a singles market, like pop. So we would only want to do the singles. We didn't want to do album tracks, you know.
Right, which is a different.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as an album track now, unless you're in a rock band. But it was, you know, you'd get 3. You remember when you'd get 3 singles or 4 singles, and the rest of the album was rubbish. So, but it was. I mean,
it's true.
At times I used to go and buy these records and I think, well, this is rubbish. Just because remember in England, it's a lot cheaper, you know.
Big D Perkins.
Oh, Big D Perkins. I've never heard. Who was that? You can excuse my ignorance.
Sorry, Kelly, can you have that information in a different way?
I'm still struggling to find who did the guitar solo on Gino Vanelli's Wild Horses, because that was such a great solo.
It was. I loved it. Yeah, it's good.
Well, no, that's the album after the. I think that's the 3rd album after Brother to Brother. That. It won't have been.
I'm seeing here that this album with Wild Horses on it was 1987. I mean, he did a lot of work.
Yeah, that's later.
So, because I mean, like the Brother to Brother was 78, then he had an album in 81. This is weird because it's got 81, then a best of from 80, then 84, and then 87 was the Big Dreamers Never Sleep, which is the album that had Wild Horses on it. And I remember being a kid growing up and just listening to that and being like, wow.
Is that the one with just a picture of Gino on the front in sort of like black and white?
That's the one, yep.
It's got Yeah, I know. That's about 3 albums after that. No, I think I remember. Yeah, Carlos telling me. I think he did that full album for about $800 or something like that when he was.
Another
And he was
guitarist.
only.
Go on, sorry.
He was 18 when he did. He was 18 when he did that.
Wow. Another guitarist that blew me away growing
You
up
listened to
was
it, didn't you?
listening to the Robert Palmer album, Heavy Nova, which had Eddie Martinez on it. There was some phenomenal guitar playing on that record.
It was sensational, yeah. Like,
Oh yeah,
big Robert Palmer fan.
Some great.
Mm.
I mean,
So,
I was a big Free fan, obviously. With that, you know, I like people like I've always liked Dave Gilmour and obviously Larry Carlton and all them people, but I like guitarists. The problem I have now today with guitarists, I've just seen a picture of Big D. There you go, we found him.
Oh, I
Brilliant.
found him.
Well,
Oh,
there you
okay. Oh, hey, I just find out. Here it is, Big D. Here we go.
Too late.
Deep
Too
Perkins,
late.
boys.
Sorry. Thanks, Callie. We found him.
Andy Keys, good choice, mate. Heavy Nova was such a good album. I still listen to that quite regularly. Love
Actually,
that record.
Andy Keys was at my house last night and helped me with all my lighting. You can see here. Sorry, Andy, the blue light's already fallen down, man. We need some more gaff tape on that. So,
Yeah, you're looking a bit red in there.
But maybe this might be towards Mike about recording guitars, or maybe Gary as well. Like, do you have any signature techniques? Let's say, off the shelf Marshall JCM 800. How do you dime it for a clean and heavy, or just a Fender Twin, or do you have some other go-to amplifier for signature sounds?
Any of those amps, depending on the style and sound you're after. But I think there's nothing better than a 57 right in front of the cone, either straight at it or off axis on a Marshall JCM 800. It could be a four speaker cabinet, 2-speaker cabinet. But
a 57.
But a 57 in front of any guitar amplifier right at the cone or rightly slight off axis. And if you want that deeper, darker tone, a 421 Sennheiser is really good.
And what about
generally? I don't think
for recording. I'm actually doing some 7-string stuff right now with the Fluence pickups here. This is all Remco's hardware.
All right.
That
Remco guitar, is that Remco's guitar there?
Yeah.
Very nice.
But
better than the one that he made me.
Just for recording.
I know he's listening.
for recording here any minute.
I'm not sure if you guys recorded any. I guess I would call it genty, because my new record, it's going to be way more chops in it. Actually, I should have got my studio over here. I should fire it up. But anyway, just that really barky sound, but it's not so much bass in it. But it's for 7 strings. Do you have any ideas for recording drop tune guitars? There you go. That's probably an easy question.
Drop D,
or even lower, drop C.
I know what you're saying. The drop D tuning, right?
Yeah, for altered tuning guitars. Yeah, how do you record it?
Yeah, like a guitar that's tuned down 5 semitones and stuff like that.
Drop L.
Yeah, if you're going for that really low, deep, heavy metal grunge sound with the drop D tuning.
With or without pen.
put a Sennheiser 421 off axis in front of the cone, or a 57. It's the same thing. I don't care what tuning you're in or what guitar you're in, but if you're using the right amp and you got a good sound, a 57, you can't beat it.
Right. Okay.
I've tried everything. I've tried to put a
John Cleary,
Neumann or the C12 backaways, and tried all these different experiments, but nothing beats the 57 right in front of the speaker, about an inch off the grill. And if you want the brighter sound, straight at the cone, and then if you want a fatter sound, slightly off axis at the paper off the cone.
Are you a fan of double miking?
Yeah.
Not particularly. I've got a Fender Princeton with 2 12s in it, or 2 12s or 2 10s, and I've put 2 mics in front of it, and tried to put them on 2 channels, and you end up getting some phasing issues.
Well, have you seen that thing at
Phasing
NAMM?
edges. And you
NAMM
get
with
a
the
much
257?
punchier, louder, powerful sound with one mic on one speaker.
Makes sense. I always
you-
find that with live, I find that a wet signal in stereo never has the same punch as just a single mono bang in the face.
Exactly. You know, Neil Young and Crazy Horse, they did it. Their tour was called Live Rust, or Rust Never Sleeps. And on stage, they had these huge replicas of Fender amplifiers. You know, they're like 20 feet tall on the stage. And inside those cabinets, they
There's
had
a hamster on a
Sun
wheel.
PAs. Yeah, they had Sun PA cabinets in them.
Wow.
And just for the stage presence. But they had their little tiny Fender Tweed
For the tone.
amplifier that's only got 110 or 112 in it with a 57 on the front of it, and that's their whole sound for their whole show, and they got the biggest freaking guitar sounds on the planet.
Wow.
But they're basically micing a 12-inch speaker with a 57, and then for stage presence they had these giant replicas of old Fender basement amps for the bass player and a Fender giant stack of Fender Tweeds, but they were just full of PA speakers in them, with the mic sound coming out of the little tiny Fender amp with a
I have to
57
say,
on it.
Doug already knows this story, but I was very, very, very blessed and lucky to hear what I think was the greatest stereo left and right with a center dry sound I've ever heard in my life, and that was actually at 5150 in Eddie Van Halen's studio. I was very lucky to go there and hang out with Eddie for an afternoon, and for 20 minutes he just played for me, which was absolutely insane. But to hear his way of getting like 3 cabinets set up, so you know, like there's his 3 4x12 cabinets and 2 refrigerator racks worth of gear, and to hear his sound in the studio. I'm standing 10 feet away from Eddie. For 20 minutes that motherfucker just went to town, and it was like it was like literally like seeing God. And the sound, because he had left and right wets, but with that center dry, it was just like kaboom.
Yeah, mind-boggling. Yeah.
You know, there's another way to get that. What another way to get that is another interesting thing is when you've got your left and right. What you can do is bus all the stuff onto a mono bus. So you got your left and right, and then you gradually just bring up the middle one and put a compressor on it, so it's really compressed like you're doing parallel compression. And what I always do is that, and it starts to bring it. You got the width, but you've also got it right there in your face as well. Yeah. And that's by busing the full track or the full thing through a mono bus, putting and just blending that in until you hear that, you can hear the middle. You can hear the middle come out, but you don't lose the width. Yeah. You know, little things like that.
I heard years ago when I was like 18 or 19 years old in a studio, I heard that Eddie got that sound from putting a Variac on his amplifier and turning down the power from 120 volts in America to 110 to 105 to 100 volts and underpowering the amp so he could bring the gain and the volume all the way up maximum to get this just huge sound. So okay. So I went out and got a Variac, plugged it in, and blew the shit out of my Marshall. I tried the transformer, and then I called SIR and said, can you send me another rental one? And I tried it with theirs and blew it up too. Okay, that must have been a rumor. That doesn't really work.
I've always been a fan of orange amps.
Nice choice. Good company, good people too.
The great thing I learned about
Cliff. Do you know Cliff?
I know Charlie.
The great thing I learned about JCM 800s, like the 100-watt old tube amp, is if you pull out the 2 center tubes, you turn the head into a 50-watt amp.
Yeah.
Wow. And it doesn't change anything. Then you can crank the gain up and crank the volume up and get that really big sound. Because a JCM 100-watt amp with all 4 power tubes in it is ridiculous in the studio, and you can't get a sound. But you take those 2 center power tubes out, and you can crank it up a little bit harder and get a fatter sound on the 412 cabinet. Just mic one speaker, but.
I have this 10-watt, it's called a daisy cutter. The circuit is designed in Canada by Phase Amplifiers. And the EQ circuit is right at the end of a few gain stages. So it's really rough around the edges. I just love it. it's great for shredding. It only really does one trick very, very well. However, at 10 watt, I think it, because of the way it's designed, it clips the power stage. And the guy that I
Right.
bought it, the guy I bought, well, so it's got square waves going into it. It just sounds amazing. The guy I bought it off, he really liked how I was playing, blah 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 blah. And anyway, he gave me tubes stamped from 1964, like
Really?
Yeah.
the
They're
real deal.
around.
Like, yeah, it's like, wow, that was phenomenal. But
I
I
remember
must
going over to Thrifty.
so maybe for
RCA machine.
maybe
gotta
for
go.
Mike. Okay, you got to go. But thanks for
Yeah.
checking in.
Sorry,
So
guys.
I've only.
Listen,
I'm not
thank you
boring
very
you,
much.
Jason, am
No,
I?
no, not at all. My wife and kids are waiting for me to have lunch, and like my son came in about like 15 minutes ago. I was like, just go away, just go away. But I've got to go because they're all waiting
right.
for me. When you got
Good to see
two
you.
kids to feed, you gotta take care of them too.
Well,
But sorry, go on.
I don't know. I
Well,
was
get
just
our
going to
email
say.
address. Get our email address, Jason, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely email you later on. After you guys have finished the show, I don't want to interrupt the show, but you'll get an email from me. And thank you very much for helping to be a part of that because we want to do something really beautiful. And Doug, thanks for having me.
Oh no,
mate. Appreciate it.
whatever we can
Yeah.
do.
Well, thanks for having me on your Vernon Reed show, man. So yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, see, we take care of each other. I put Doug
Yeah.
on my show, he puts me on his show, and we're just
'Cause
looking out for each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I will speak
Well,
to you again.
you can always count on the studio and what we're
You know,
doing.
why don't we have a show?
We should have a show. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, look, for me personally though, like I've got a pretty big setup because I've actually got a camera above my keyboard over there, and I've got another one over here for when I play guitar as well, and I've got like a real crazy setup. But I do video professionally, so I'm all rigged up for this stuff. So, and that's what it
Yeah.
takes.
Actually, we was Doug will tell you we're all organised when it comes to doing video.
Yeah.
And everything, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are amazing.
Got it
Yeah,
sewed
right.
together.
Now, I might just be going
I'll
on a
tell you
limb
what,
here, but
though.
I'm detecting some sarcasm here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, no.
I had to tell him how to do it over here from Australia.
I don't know who this Remco Mayer is. Get rid of this bloke.
The other thing is as well, and here's a little funny tip for you right now while I'm still sitting here. If you guys go down on StreamYard that you're looking at right now and hit the camera mic button, if you change your camera resolution to 480, from 480 to 720, you'll end up with a wider screen. So if you click down the bottom, you got that cam/mic thing. You see that in front of you?
Yeah.
It brings up
Yeah,
a
I
box.
got it.
You'll see you've got camera and then you've got camera resolution. Change it from 480
we're
to
on
720.
480.
Yeah, can you change it to 720 or not with your... Look at that!
Hey.
Oh, that's better.
See? I told you I'm a
that's
video
much
guy. I
Damn.
know what I'm
Look
doing.
at that. Tips from Japan. That's amazing.
Fantastic. I've been, man, next starting to it, I've been leaning in like this for a
Yeah. Now you don't have to cuddle with him anymore.
Can I just say this one thing as well? There's Kelly, if you're there, are you talking about the John Cleary that played with Bonnie Raitt? Because if it is the same guy, he's phenomenal. He's a very good friend of mine as well as John Cleary. Because you mentioned some of the John Cleary and Cornell Williams.
Wow.
And John Cleary is a fantastic piano player and a guitarist and a great singer as well. So if it's the same John Kelly, I agree with you.
There we go. There we go. All right,
well, I'm
Jason.
out.
There you go.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll talk to you all
speak to you
very
soon.
soon.
All right,
Stay
see you
beautiful.
Nice to
soon.
meet you, Jason.
Likewise.
Speak
Thank
soon,
you,
yeah.
gentlemen.
Peace out.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
man. See you soon. So probably just two more questions, and we'll probably wrap this one up. But maybe what you guys might be working on right now in your studio due to the whole COVID thing. And I've got one more question after that, then we're done.
Well, right now we're working on "We Are the Champions."
No joke.
It's
No
funny.
joke.
No, well, it's a song. It's a song that Mike did with a girl here, and that's what they wanted. They wanted that "We Are the Champions." So we've really gone to town. We've really gone to town on it, and it's like that actually.
Yeah, it's actually
we're
just
doing.
called "Champions," but we
Oh, thanks,
because of the anthem style song of the
Yes,
of
you
the,
made him.
of the music. Gary's taken it from a whole nother level from where we got it and added some of the elements of "We Are the Champions" to it, and now it's just turned into this huge huge track that's annoying the hell out of the both of us after about 4 weeks of working on it. And we're just, but we can't stop. We just can't stop because we both believe that it's going to turn into something huge.
But it's obvious it comes from We Are the Champions, but we've done our own thing on it. And yes, that's why we were smiling when we said about We Are the Champions, that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
We'll have to send you that. When it's done, we'll send you it.
Yeah, and when it's done, we'll have to do a studio walkthrough next time or something like that.
I might have to wear these. And next time I'll have to wear these big things on my ears.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
They're not even plugged in.
Yeah,
BS protectors.
They're not plugged in. I'm just trying to look cool with my headphones on. If I'm in the studio,
I can't hear any of this crap.
This is how organised we are. Look, I've got one of them turned round so Mike can hear what we're talking about.
Oh right, okay, cool. I just thought you're trying to set a new trend.
That's so you can hear you. You see through there.
That was a new hip hop way of listening to music.
Yeah,
don't very very high tech here.
As long as you can hear the bass, as long as you can hear the bass drum in hip hop, that's all you need.
Yeah,
that's all right. So maybe just the last question: then, how do people get in contact with you? Are you looking for new acts, or
Well, yeah. Let me tell you what we've been doing. Me and Mike Mike kindly. I had to move out of where I was living before, and I always lived in Malibu, but now I'm with Mike, and we've just teamed up. So we've got a studio here, which is Mike's studio. It's on 2.5 acres of land. Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal, So what we want to start to do, and we're getting all the presentations ready. So we want to start getting people over here because it's you can see the ocean. It's in Malibu, and it's just fantastic. It sounds great. It's a great environment to write, to program in, and do everything like that. And it's just Mike's really, helped me out through all the stuff that's been going on. And then now we're partnering up in this, and we're going to everything I'm doing is going to be done from here. And we want to bring people out here because we can do everything that we need to do, from pop to rock to movies, everything.
Yeah,
so we're in the throes of doing that now.
So what's the details? What do people actually? How do they find you? Do you have a website, or do you have a Facebook, Instagram, your socials?
No, we don't. No one knows how to find us, and we're completely oblivious, and we're quarantined, and nothing. Probably
Crunchy. What is it? The studio is.
The studio is called Crunchy Barn, and the name comes from when I first built the place. That I built it out of blocks and steel with no windows, so I could keep the dog food in here, which I affectionately called Crunchies, so that the mice and rats couldn't get to it. But. So that's where the name came from. But as far as myself and personally, I'm not, you can't find me. I don't exist. I'm not on social media whatsoever.
Fair enough.
The best way to contact the studio is through Gary and through G Miller Music.
Yeah, G Miller Music at gmail.com.
And whatever Facebook account Gary has.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And and everybody please check out rockagainsttrafficking.org is.
.org. Okay, cool, guys.
So we're in the throat. We haven't done the website. It's so new. We haven't done the website for the studios yet. But these are all the things that we're actually in process of doing now. But definitely, we're looking to develop. I'm personally been developing about 3 artists at the moment. But we want to develop people and producers. If there's any bands out there that want to come to sunny or Malibu when this is all over, then we're available, to do all sorts of things for mixing. I'm doing a lot of remote mixing now for hip hop, rock, pop stuff and things like that, which is really good.
Wow, that's cool. All right, well, thank you.
Obviously, from writing,
Well, I just want to say thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll do this again. So this will put you guys in good stead and put you on the map and stuff. But just stay.
No, every time.
So please stay on the line.
Anytime you like, Joe.
Yeah, stay. Oh, thank you, sir. Please stay on the line. I'll just close off, and then I'll talk to you in 10 seconds. There we go, Phil. Thanks, Phil. Yeah. Epic. All right, there we go. I'll just
thanks everybody.
Just stay on the line. Thanks. So please make sure you like and subscribe, and these guys are an amazing wealth of experience. We'll get them on the show again next time. So thanks for watching. This is, I made up a new name. Make Some Noise. That's going to be the name of the TV show, Make Some Noise. See you again next time.